Continuing on the Chapter 3 test review, let's go ahead and do 3 through 7. Okay, number 3 says for numbers 3a through 3e, choose yes or no to indicate whether the number is between -1 and -2. So I'm going to use my graph paper over here. So here's, if I'm going to use the x-axis, here would be -1. And here would be -2. So I need to find all the numbers that would fit between these two numbers. Okay, so -4/5. Well, -4/5 is less than 1. So it's not going to quite get to -1. It's going to be somewhere around here. So that is definitely not between these two numbers. It's outside. So that would be no. Okay, 1 2/3, and it's positive. So positive 1 2/3 is going to be, here's 1, and then some more. It's going to be over here. It's nowhere near -1 and -2, so that's going to be no. Okay, -1.3. Okay, so here's -1.3 is going to be about here. So -1.3 is going to be right about there. So yeah, that lands right in between those 2 points. Okay, next one, -1 1/4. So that's -1 and some more. So again, it's going to be right around there. So yeah. And then our last one, -2 1/10. So it's going to be -2 and some more. So that lies outside of our area. So that's going to be no. So on your test, you always want to, on these types of problems, make a number line. Okay, use your graph paper, use your scratch paper, make a number line, and go ahead and graph those points. That's the easiest way to see if it's going to be yes or no. All right, number 4, compare -1/5 and -0.9. Use numbers and words to explain your answer. Okay, well, I'm going to change this fraction into a decimal. So I divide the denominator into the numerator. 5 can't go into 1 evenly. So I add a decimal, add my 0. 5 goes into 10 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10. So this is -0.2. And we're comparing it with -0.9. Okay. So again, what I want to do here is create a number line. Okay, I know I'm working with negatives, so my 0 is going to be over here. And then I'm going to go all the way to 0.9, and that's -0.9. So right here we'd have -0.1. Here we would have -0.2. And way down here, 0.3. So -0.2 is right here on the number line. -0.9 is right here on the number line. And remember, the further left you go, the less you get. So -0.2 is going to be greater than -0.9. And then use numbers. There's my numbers and words. -0.2 is further to the right. So it is more valuable. Okay. All right, number 5. Giandra said the absolute value of 3 equals the absolute value of negative 3. Is Giandra correct? Use the number line and words to support your answer. So I would say yes. She is correct. Because they both have a value of 3. And I can show it on a number line. Here's my 0, 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, -3. So they are both 3 units away from 0. Remember, absolute value of 3 equals 3, and the absolute value of -3 is also 3. So there's all my evidence to show that she is correct. All right, number 6, write the values in order from least to greatest. So first I'm going to go ahead and change these to their absolute value. Absolute value of -4 is 4. Absolute value of 2 is 2. Absolute value of -12 is 12. Absolute value of 8 is 8. So least to greatest. Absolute value of 2. Next is absolute value of -4. Next is absolute value of 8. And finally, absolute value of -12. All right. For numbers 7a through 7d, select true or false for each statement. So for these problems, again, you're going to want to use your graph paper and just do what they say and then see if it's true. Let me show you what I mean by that. The x-coordinate of any point on the y-axis is 0. Okay, so any point on the y-axis is going to have an x-coordinate of 0. So let's just put a number on the y-axis. We'll graph this point, and we'll see if its x-coordinate is 0. So to label this number, remember we always do x first, then y. So the x is, well, it's not 1, it's not -1, yeah, it's 0. And y is 1. So it's true in that case, but let's do 2 more. Let's say if I put a point here, because again it says any point on the y-axis. So I'm going to be putting points all along this y-axis and checking if the x value is 0 whenever I put it on the y-axis. Okay, so here's another point I put on the y-axis, and here I'll put a point here on the y-axis. Now let's find the ordered pair for each one of these and see if we always end up with 0 for our x. So xy, xy. So this point would be 0 and -4. And this point, I go right or left. I don't go right or left at all. I just go straight up. So it's 0, 5. So yeah, every point that is on the y-axis is going to have an x. The coordinate of x is going to be 0, so that is true. So what does that also tell us? Any point on the x-axis is going to have a y value of 0. All right, let's look at the next one. Point D, -2, 1, is to the left of the y-axis and below the x-axis. Well, let's go ahead and graph that point. So -2, 1, 2. Start at the origin, go back 2, and up 1. So my point's going to be right here. And then it says it's to the left of the y. Well, here's my y-axis. It is, in fact, to the left of it. so that part is true. And below the x-axis, well, here's my x-axis. Is that point below my x-axis? No, it is not, so that is false. So you can see how it's very easy if you use your graph paper and a coordinate plane. You just do what it says and then check and see if it's true. The point where the axes intersect is the origin. So the y-axis meets the x-axis right here. Do we call that point the origin? Yeah, that's true, we do. And then next one, if both the x and y coordinates are positive, the point is to the right of the y-axis and below the x-axis. So if they're both positive, so we can think of any number we want as long as they're both positive. I'm going to say the point 2, 3. Okay. Both the x and the y are positive. 2 is positive, 3 is positive. And let me graph that point. Okay, over 2, up 3. Oops, right there. And it says the point is to the right of the y-axis. Well, here's my y-axis again. And yes, in fact, the point is to the right. And below the x-axis. Here's my x-axis. Below the x-axis, no, my point is above the x-axis, so that is false. All right, continuing on. I will see you on the next video.